the Know Your Gear podcast.
Is there a way to tell if the frets are stainless or nickel, or do you just have to wait and see? Okay, so on the tests, because as you know, we keep trying to increase the tests of what we do, and we've added a couple new things. But one of the problems we have is the whole confirming something stainless. The reality is that first of all, stainless steel fret guitars, the best ones, the highest quality ones, somebody using like the Jazzcar fret material, that's not the hardest stainless, right? So they can't even use the hardest stainless steel. And again, this is where it gets tricky. So like nickel silver, okay, so there's degrees, right? So essentially like nickel silver frets, there are, they don't think about thickness and like, medium and jumbo and vintage. Don't even think about it like that. Just think about this. In density of strength, there are different materials within that same naming structure. So somebody saying nickel silver doesn't really tell you the whole story, right? It's there could be more nickel content or more of a material content in it and less of a material content and they can be made. Paul Reed Smith himself, Paul Reed Smith Guitars claim that their nickel silver frets are some of the hardest nickel silver frets you can buy in the industry. And that's what they're using, right? So they're saying, Paul has said that his nickel silver frets, the materials they're using, that they're buying from their vendors, are less than stainless steel. They're not as strong as stainless steel, but they're almost as strong as the weakest, I guess, stainless steel. That's basically, right? So think about like a chart, 1 to 10, right? 10 being this ultimate hard stainless steel, but they're not using that in frets. I tell you that because that's kind of where I'm like, wow, I'd really like to give that information to you guys. The sad part is, this is what we did. We looked into it. And so a couple of you guys reached out and you guys had some information and we learned that there's a machine and I looked in the machine and I really did. I even found a used one that will help me tell if something is stainless steel. The problem is the machine was 20 grand. I found a used one for 9 grand. So I was like, man, this is going to take a long time. Plus I have no idea, right? I remember I'm taking a shot in the dark. This will even work for what I want to use it for. So how I can tell, there's only 2 ways that I can be able to tell when I'm testing the frets, so you guys know. And I do this sometimes off camera, but I'm still doing the test. Test 1 is I polish the frets. So polishing stainless steel is really simple. Think about it this way. You cannot, nickel silver, in my experience with nickel silver frets, when I polish them, just with steel wool, like 4/0 steel wool, when I polish a fret, as hard as I polish it, as much as I polish it, I cannot get it as shiny as a stainless steel fret. So a stainless steel fret is more mirror-like image or finish, more mirror finish than a nickel silver. However, when I use my magnifying glass, that big magnifying glass, when I go there and I look at the frets, no matter how shiny I get it, it's almost impossible, to not see any micro scratches in stainless steel frets. All stainless steel frets all seem to be, you can get them really super shiny so that visibly to your eye, they are super shiny, like I said, like a mirror. But if you get out the magnifying glass and you look up close, you're going to see these little teeny hairline marks in them that you don't really see in nickel silver. That's one of the ways I've been able to tell. And by the way, then this is a best educated guess at that point. I'm giving you guys some kind of confirmation that way. The real easy way for me to tell is to cut them. I have cut so many frets in my life, right? That when I take the nips and I like cut them, I don't care what the fret is. When I do that, I know exactly what that is. Nickel silver, like cheap, like, frets on guitars. Like we're talking inexpensive, student grade, at the Costco guitars. You put one of those frets and you cut through it. It's like cutting through like butter. It's butter. Stainless steel, I always have to kind of push. I can always feel it in my wrist. Like just all of a sudden that last little piece tells me like, oh, this is a little harder than normal. And that tells me. So here's the problem with that. The problem is if I yank a fret and I do that, I can repair the fret, and there's not that fret, but I can put a new fret. I can repair the guitar and sell the guitar. But I really devalued the guitar, so it's been really tough for me to kind of justify doing that. So, we have been in talks for another idea. One of the ideas is we're reaching out to companies to actually provide us a piece of their fret wire. The problem though is how do we know they actually are providing us the correct fret wire? And how geeky and nerdy do we want to get with this on this channel, right? Really, at the end of the day, here's how I feel about it. I have no doubt that Kiesel Guitars is giving you stainless steel frets. Okay. And I have no doubt that Paul Reed Smith guitars are giving you nickel silver frets. Like I have no doubt there. So really when we're testing things, we're really just testing these off-brand companies. So, it's really, that's what it's about. It's like an off-brand company. Are they really giving you what they say? And luckily for us, Fender and Gibson, who are big brands, but notoriously known for being off spec, they don't claim to use stainless steel for the most part. So those, I would tell you the fastest way is definitely polish them. Polish the frets. You can really tell. That's been the fastest. And by the way, the other thing I did besides looking into the tools, what I really did is I reached out to a bunch of my friends in the industry who work in the factories, physically work in the factories, polishing frets all day. I actually have 3 of them, 3 close friends who polish frets all day. That's all they do in 3 different companies in the US. And when I talked to them, they literally said that, and so why that's important is, to me, they're better than luthiers. They're better than repair guys because there's somebody doing something all day. If you know as well as I do, anybody knows, if you do one thing all day, right, you know that thing better than probably anyone else. And so when they're polishing frets all day, what they said is exactly what I just told you. They said, look, we can tell because they have stories too, where they have stories where like, yeah, a guitar comes through and I'm like, this is supposed to be stainless for the customer and it doesn't look stainless. And they got to test too. And so I go, how do you know that you grabbed the right fretwire and somebody didn't mess up down the road, up the production line? And they said, the same as me, polish the frets. You won't get any nickel silvers to get highly, highly polished like the stainless steels. So it's really cool. So that's my insight on that. Max says big brands should offer stainless steel frets. I'm, there's, again, we can talk all day. Everybody's going to talk about tone woods and opinions and all that stuff. I know I'm not talking tone woods, but I really think at this point, every guitar that can have stainless steel frets should have stainless steel frets. The players, though, still freak out of that. That's the holdback. The holdback is some players like, no, I hate the way they sound. I'm convinced that most of you guys can't figure it out because I can't figure it out. And I'm not saying like, oh, I have a magic ear and if I can't hear it, you can't hear it. I'm telling you guys, like just trying to confirm something like that. If it was so easy that all of you can hear it, that would be easy. It's just not that easy in all those cases. So I don't know. I don't know, but I'm sure everybody keeps telling me they can hear it. I don't know. I can tell you this. I told you guys, I refretted my PRS Miro with stainless steel frets. I've handed the guitar to 2 dozen guitar players and not one guitar player says, man, this guitar is really bright. They all say the same thing. They all go, it's really dark. Is that because it's all mahogany? They all say that and it's really dark because the pickups are really dark. It has the Mira has a really dark, mellow sound because those pickups are really underwound. And every time they're like, really dark. Is that the mahogany? Like, no, it's the stainless steel frets. Yeah, I don't know. But I like, now see, watch Art says use a magnet. Art, that's a great idea. Believe it or not, we actually, not only tried that, we bought a ton of magnets. Here's the problem. There's a problem. First of all, nickel silver frets aren't magnetic either. So that doesn't help us. We can't get the magnet to stick to them. We've tried all kinds of things. Okay. In bare wire, you can kind of get some materials to stick to the magnet. But the biggest issue, believe it or not, this is from testing. Like I said, hours. I've spent hours on this project. So, the biggest problem is the truss rod in the center. Is that once you use a magnet that's strong enough and sensitive enough to detect something like the fret, it goes right for the truss rod. So you can't tell because you're again, you have to pull the fret. And if you're pulling the fret, I don't really need to use a magnet. If I'm pulling the fret, I told you, once I pull the fret, I can tell. It's just, pulling the fret. And I also got to just say this again, kind of like my story earlier about, loving a guitar just because I love it. I also came to the conclusion after putting, dozens, not hundreds of hours, I don't want to be ridiculous here, but dozens of hours into this as hey, wouldn't this be a cool thing to do on the channel to give someone as information, is if it's this hard to tell, then it's insanely stupid. Right? If you have to go through this lengths to figure out if something is good or bad, then I guess you can't tell. That's the answer, right? The real answer is in 20 years of real playing, you'll figure out if you have nickel, silver, or stainless steel frets. The sad thing is if somebody says, oh, well, if you get nickel, silver, you'll tell. Only if you play the crap out of it for over many, many years, only because most guitar players aren't wearing out frets. You know how I know that? I know that for a fact. Here's how I know that most of you guys aren't wearing out frets. Go on Reverb and look at used guitars and show me how many of those guitars have worn out frets. There are guitars that are 30, 40 years old. Now, by the way, for the record, so in case somebody gets smart about this and says, oh, well, they crown and level them. Yeah, well, show me how many guitars have 3 crown and levels over a period of 30 years or whatever. It's not a lot, not comparatively. So a lot of players are not playing. As players decided to get dozen guitars, they just can't put the wear on all their guitars. I had somebody tell me, it's a good argument. Somebody says, oh, they used to play them a lot in the 80s and 90s. Now they don't play them as much. It's possible. My theory is it was a lot easier to wear out your frets when you had 1 guitar or 2. When you have 10, it gets really hard to put those guitars in rotation to a point where you wear them out. It's just the reality of it. So we'll see, like I said, but again, I'm going to stick with, if it's that hard to tell, then I guess it may not matter. So if you like this clip and you'd like to watch another one, you can click right here. And if you want to see the entire episode of the podcast, you can click right there. As always, thank you for your time and know your gear.